it was during the summer we heard that ABC was developing a new sitcom, which I'm not going to lie, I'm not the biggest fan of a lot of live action sitcoms. Like the ones I like, I really enjoy, but it's hard for me to find new ones.
Mm-hmm.
And they were developing a show that would star Tim Allen. I'm like, okay, I like Tim Allen, Home Improvement, The Santa Claus, Buzz Lightyear.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, he also did that awful show, Last Man Standing, and that awful The Santa Clauses show. But, really, when it comes to sitcoms, look, you can act your heart out. It's not really the actor. I mean, it's kind of like the actor's not the biggest thing in the sitcom. It's who's behind it, right? So the show was going to be developed by Mike Scully and his wife, who's also a writer. Now, Mike Scully we've talked about on here because he was the showrunner of The Simpsons for a while. Now, it's an era of the show that a lot of people don't like as much. And even though it's kind of the weakest era, I'm just like, well, even that era has better writing than most live action sitcoms. So Mike Scully, okay, that's something. He also did have some experience on Everybody Loves Raymond. So he does have some live action comedy experience. Then after the pilot, he left, which I was like, okay, whatever. And, sometimes, and look, the big thing that worried me, the thing that worried me the most about this show was, I think you're muted. Oh, okay.
Oh,
It was a multicam sitcom. That to me is like, oh no.
Yeah.
And also it is going to have Kat Dennings from the Thor movies playing Tim Allen's daughter. So it came out in January. I'm just like, you know what? I've watched an episode of Abbott Elementary. That was the kind of thing, right? It airs on the same night as Abbott. So I'm just like, well, I watched Abbott. I'll watch this.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't know what to expect. And I'll say this. The show's not bad. It's terrible.
Okay.
This is an awful, awful show with a problem I've never seen in a sitcom before.
Really?
Yes. So, what can I say about it? No, for positives, I will say two positives, okay? Tim Allen, who I think is an underrated actor. I think when you look, he kind of gets lumped in now to one role. Mm-hmm. But when you look at like Home Improvement, Santa Claus, Buzz Lightyear, he does have range where he can play different characters.
Yeah.
It's just the last few years he's kind of got lumped into one specific role. Tim Allen and Kat Dennings, they're good. They're fine. Mm-hmm. But when you have a bad script, not even Daniel Day-Lewis can fix that.
Yeah.
And it does try to have heartwarming moments. And those are okay, I guess. But one issue, this sitcom is so full of cliches. Just like you have the overall premise of the daughter moving back home with the dad with her kids after the death of a mother. Like, how many sitcoms have we heard like that? Father and daughter always fighting about how Kat Dennings' character should raise her kids. And then you also have the one girl who's kind of like Kat Dennings' daughter is kind of trying to be a Lisa Simpson type clone. Like she's the genius or whatever. And you have the boy who's a nerd, the older boy.
Yeah.
And here's the big thing. This is a thing that really hurts a sitcom. None of these characters are interesting. And it has what I call Super Friends syndrome, which is if you look at like The Office, okay?
Yeah.
If you were to take a script of The Office and remove all the names, you can tell who is who. You could read a few lines and say, this is Michael.
Oh, yeah.
This is Dwight. This is Jim. If you were to do that with a script of Shifting Gears, I don't even know if I said the name of the show. It's called Shifting Gears.
Yeah.
You can't tell who's who because they're all bland. There's just no personality to them.
Yeah, that seems like a classic, just classically, it seems like the litmus test for bad character writing, basically, is like,
yes,
if you can't tell who they are completely separate of just the name, then you haven't even really made a character.
It just feels like They went with here's dad character, here's daughter, but like swap them around, you can't tell who's who.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that. And look, maybe I'm just biased because I think multicam shows now suck.
Mm-hmm.
But it kind of feels when you watch an episode of this show, and I've endured 7 hellish episodes of this show. You know what? Not for my enjoyment, but for stuff like this show, where sometimes you gotta force yourself to sit through garbage.
Yeah.
It feels like they really only have in the show, they have the main home set. They have the set of Tim Allen's character works at a garage. And it feels like each episode they only have the budget for one extra set.
Oh.
So it feels like they're really playing into the limitations of multicam.
Mm-hmm.
And the episodes themselves don't have much of a plot, and they only just kind of have basic premises. Like when you look at an episode of the much better ABC show, Abbott Elementary, like there was an episode where they went to a conference, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when you look besides that, and look, when that episode started, I was like, really? This is what we're going to do?
Mm-hmm.
But they gave the characters each interesting stories. You had Janine's character, who is now dating this other teacher named Gregory, who she was on the phone with him when he was picking up coffee, and she thought that he said, I love you for the first time on the phone.
Yeah.
You have the story of Jacob, one of the teachers, who's trying to find a clubs for the students at Abbott so that they'll be more engaged in school. You know, you also have the storyline of some of the teachers are doing like playing a game of bingo of like, here's what we can expect our Abbott teachers to do. Like Janine will say something stupid or whatever, or something like that. And you also have the principal is feeling sorry for another school that isn't getting the funding they need. This show, it's just basic premises. Here's the last episode, okay? Across the shop from Tim Allen's shop, there's a dance studio, and they put a picnic table outside, and that makes Tim Allen's character upset because he doesn't want his workers to spend time at the picnic table. All 2 of his employees. You know, when it first started, he had a lot of employees, but we only see 2 of them.
Oh.
Throughout the show. I'm just like, why? What do you care if they have a picnic table? Why are we wasting time on this? There's like really no plot. It's just we're in this scene and it's dragged out and nothing really happens. It's just there's not interesting stories.
Yeah.
And this is something I've never seen in a sitcom, okay? Where they have punchlines, but the setup for the joke either doesn't make sense or is confusing.
Oh.
Like, here's one example was they had a scene where Tim Allen's character, who's a widower, he went to visit the grave of his wife, and then you had this one lady come in, and clearly, and she just automatically just like, are you going to hurry up or whatever? And he's like, well, it's not the line in the supermarket. And you're just like, okay, I get you got the punchline of we're not in line at the supermarket trying to go fast, but it doesn't make sense why she's saying, why don't you hurry up at the cemetery?
Oh, yeah.
And one of the big ones was when they talk about Pluto not being a planet anymore. And Tim Allen's character said, well, the grandson says, you know, it's not a planet, it's a dwarf star. And then Tim Allen's character says, what's Disney going to do about that? And I'm like, what are you referencing? Are you referencing Mickey Mouse's dog or Snow White? What are you referencing? Like, I get you just said Disney. What are you referencing?
Probably it's
See, that's
probably
you're confused too.
Yeah.
No, we don't know what they're referencing.
Yeah, I think I think I feel like they're referencing Pluto the dog, but like why? Like like the planet's called Pluto.
Yeah.
Like that's the joke.
Yeah, I don't know. Also, very outdated jokes. Would you believe that in 2025 we have an episode where one of the big things is a fidget spinner?
Oh my gosh, that's
yeah,
that's wild.
Wow, what year do they think it is? And I think
Yeah.
the problem for this show, this multicam show, is a lot of the people have experience in sitcoms. A lot of the people working behind the scenes. And it kind of feels like they have this attitude of, we've been doing this for 40 years. We know what we're doing. And I think that's kind of the problem, is that sitcoms have changed in 40 years. Like, I think, and maybe there's some others too, but just off the top of my head, I feel like the two biggest sitcoms that have happened in my lifetime are Seinfeld and The Office, where they completely changed the way sitcoms are, where Seinfeld moved away from the we're gonna learn the moral lesson or whatever of today's story and have a heartwarming moment.
Mm-hmm.
And then The Office moved it to where we're a more grounded type show. We're not gonna have crazy stories. What we're gonna have is crazy type characters that will take a more mundane story and elevate it, like we see now in Abbott Elementary. And I just think that's kind of the problem, is this attitude of, well, we know what we're doing. We've been doing this for 40 years. And it's just, yeah, you can't do that anymore. Like, that era that you were from, where you were fresh and new, is over. It's done. Like, I don't know. It just feels like they're not adapting to the times. It feels like a relic. And look, I'm going to say it's harsh, but, I know it's the most streamed show in ABC history. I can't see anyone like watching this show and being like, it's great. Mm-hmm. I kind of feel like they put it on because it's Tim Allen and they have nostalgia for Home Improvement. And it's kind of just on the background while they do something else. That's kind of what I think it is.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much my review of Shifting Gears. And I guess I'll ask you, is multi-camera comedy, is it kind of like the way 2D animation was back in the early 2000s, where, we were, rightly or wrongly, in the early 2000s, we were getting hand-drawn movies like, Treasure Planet, Home on the Range, but like CGI cartoons, we were getting Finding Nemo, Shrek, The Incredibles. Are multicam shows just doomed to fail? And is that time of TV basically going to come to an end, like hand-drawn animated movies, do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. There's multicams now are definitely weird. Like, it does feel like it relies so much of the current, like, just climate of media production is so based around nostalgia right now that it does kind of seem like that multicam almost operates in this weird place where it's like, we admit that this is a dead medium that we can't do anything interesting in, and so therefore we are just going to 100% just play on the nostalgia of, like, remember when multicam shows were good? This is kind of like that. And I mean, I hate I almost hate to say the term lowest common denominator, but a lot of them are kind of trying to do the broadest appeal possible to get, because it's sort of like, what is TV anymore? Like just make something that everyone's okay with having on, like just that Tim Allen says the whole thing and the rest doesn't matter, and just write kind of sort of shallow, kind of outdated jokes that feel like they're written by an out of touch, like, old millionaire who just kind of is like, I don't know. I've seen clips from some other like multicams or even just other newer sitcoms where it feels,
they showed how out of touch they were when they brought in fidget spinners.
Yeah, that feels very like I have an uncle who basically thinks that Justin Bieber is still what the kids are into. Like, you learn something 20 years ago and you just do not update.
Yeah.
That feels very like that. Like, where it's just like, I could almost imagine that show having a joke of like, what's next? You're gonna eat Tide Pods? It's like way past that.
Yeah.
But yeah, what was I gonna say? I think the issue that multicams have right now is that it is playing almost on the history of multicam sitcoms, and I haven't seen an attempt to do something new with a multicam sitcom. Like there isn't any like what else can we do with this format? Do we experiment with it at all? There's no attempt to do that at all.
Yeah, yeah, it just feels like if you're gonna try and do something special with a sitcom, you automatically just avoid multicam now.
Yeah, that often is the case. I mean, limitations can be good and force you to be better at writing, but that just doesn't seem like the. I haven't seen that work in a multicam recently. I personally just have never even been able to get into like I can kind of acknowledge Seinfeld as probably the best multicam sitcom show that I have seen any of. Um, but even that, I haven't seen that much of Seinfeld. It's not like an always go to show. And other than that, I've never liked a multicam sitcom show.
Yeah. So I guess to sum it up, the show sucks.
Yeah.